Greetings everyone, this is Ehav from the Chronicles of Ehav, and today's video is going to be a continuation of the previous video called Does Hashem Have Emotions Like a Human Being? And this is part 1. Now if you remember in the previous video, in the introduction, I discussed some issues concerning the, what Torah Moshe says about exactly, what Hashem is, what exactly Hashem created, and what exactly does it mean that Hashem created everything. And I also mentioned the issue of Hashem creating, the concept of time and also the ability for there to be time, which, is a very important element of what I'm going to be discussing. Because again, when you say, well, what time is for us as humans, and when it comes to matter, time usually revolves around 3 concepts, that is past, present, and future. Now, again, as far as we're concerned, because we haven't created past, present, and future, and we are born into a universe that already has it as a concept that we can relate to, meaning that even if I decide I don't want to, go by the concept of past, present, and future, I'm still affected by it, whether I like it or not. I'm born at a certain point. That's in my past. As I continue to go further and further in life, there's a certain present moment that I'm in that goes away constantly, and at some point I'll reach a future, and there's, more than likely a future where I'm going to pass away at some point. It means I'm going to die. So there's a certain time limit that I have on everything that I do is, as far as a living human being. So that is something that, as far as Torah Moshe is concerned, it's something Hashem established and created along with, the physical world as we know it and all the rules that come along with that, as well as the possibilities of what's possible within the universe, including our choices, our ability to make certain choices are provided, but we are the ones who choose those, those paths. But the ability to take that path is already there, and it's a part of what Hashem created. So the following it comes from a question and then response situation where someone asked a question, a group of questions, and in a form that I used to be in, I responded to them. So concerning these questions and my responses, the first one of many questions was what you see in the top part in the kind of highlighted area. The person's question was, started a little bit longer, but it went on to say, but anyway, for what I understand from Torah Moshe Jews, is that they don't believe that Hashem has any emotions or feelings. Therefore, I asked them questions. Who is Hashem? So my response is right below, or my response back then to this question was right below. And my response at that point was the most simple answer in English, and it's important I mention in English, would be that Hashem is the source of all forms of reality. Hashem was not created and is not subject to something else. Excuse my spelling because this is a form and I had to write fast. There is a tendency to talk about Hashem in negatives, meaning Hashem is not this or that. The reason is because Hashem is beyond human reasoning. Yet the Torah is the path with which Jews can reason with Hashem. So the other question that the person brought up was, okay, well, what are his motives? Meaning, what are Hashem's motives? So, what I responded to right below that is, if you mean towards humanity, there is a common thread in Torah Moshe text that points to the idea that Hashem created a reality for humans to exist in, and to give the Torah to the Israeli Jewish people, and to provide the ability for reality to benefit humanity. What this means is that, if a person were to say, okay, why did Hashem create everything? Well, one of the responses that's given in a number of Torah Moshe sources, from a vast majority of Jewish communities, is for the benefit of humanity. That if humanity wants, we can benefit from the reality that Hashem created. We can also choose to not benefit from it whatsoever. And that's a choice, So if a person decides, for example, that it's better for them to simply say, I don't want to benefit from anything. I don't want to eat good food. I want to, starve myself. I want to, destroy myself. If that's what a person wants to do, Hashem, is not there to try to completely stop us. Hashem gives us all the benefit of the doubt to choose not to do that. And Hashem gives us the benefit to not take that path. But if a person is just dead set on it, then that's what they're going to be allowed to have if that's what they want. But they don't have to, and it's actually against their own benefit to have it that way. But they can choose it because we all have free will. The next question was, what does humanity mean to him? And my response to this was, humanity means a species that has the ability to have free will and the ability to use the elements of logic that Hashem placed in humanity. I think that's pretty, self-explanatory, and I think the other questions, my other responses will also kind of help with this particular answer. So the next question was, why did he even create humans? Now my response to this was same as the above answer, and for the possibility for the Torah to be kept by a segment of humanity. Meaning that, for example, I mentioned before that Hashem created everything in order for it to be the benefit of humanity, if we choose it to be, and we have free will. So one element of free will is that the ability to make the good choices for yourself and for all of humanity have to be available. But then also for there to be free will, you have to have the ability to choose the opposite of all of that. So it's like saying, if I have a free will choice to go right or left, and the left direction is like, will be really bad for me. Like, for example, let's say I fall in a pit of snakes, where in the right one, I get to a place where there's good food and good health care and things like that. Well, free will would dictate that I have to be able to have the ability to go either way. I can choose to go in the destructive way or the positive way that helps, benefit me or benefit humanity. So it's, for example, for the benefit of humanity that reality was created and the humans created, not for the benefit of Hashem. And we'll get to that in just a second. So the next sequence of questions was the following. And again, this is the kind of highlighted area at the very top is what the person was asking, and then below that is my answer. So he asked, what's in it for him? I mean, what's in it for Hashem to create everything? So my response to that was Rab Saadia Gaon and Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, known as the Rambam, posited that Hashem doesn't operate in that way, i.e., the concept of a benefit doesn't exist when dealing with something that A is the source, B created out of a choice to do so, and C doesn't rely on or need its creations. Now what this means is the following. Consider the following issue. Let's say that, for example, a person decides that, okay, I'm going to stop praying to Hashem, and by doing so, I take away the power from Hashem. Hashem has no power over anything in reality if I stop praying to him and everyone else does. Well, in reality, according to Torah Moshe, that doesn't mean anything. Everybody in the world could decide to stop, dealing with Hashem, doing mitzvot, praying to Hashem, and it doesn't change Hashem at all. For example, let's say that a person says, okay, I'm going to build a society that is completely against the Torah, and I'm going to do everything I can to destroy the Torah. Well, if Hashem is the source of creation, it means that you can't fully destroy anything that Hashem has put in place that won't be destroyed or can't be destroyed. I mean, you can try, just your chances are very low. And at the same time, by you trying, it doesn't, for example, put Hashem in a situation where Hashem can't do anything. It doesn't put Hashem in a position where Hashem has to cry over you, specifically. So the issue here is that, we can't say benefit for Hashem. Reality was created for our benefit. It wasn't because Hashem needed something that he created the world and created the universe. It wasn't because Hashem needed us or needs us or will need us that this is all here. It's because Hashem chose it to be for our own benefit. And that's where, many of the rabbis who talk about this issue are very clear that even if you were to say that, if you were to get to the issue of saying that Hashem has some element of emotion, you can't say it's a human emotion. Because at the end of the day, we as humans need things because one of the reasons we need things is, like I mentioned before, because we have a certain time limit on us. It's almost like saying we have an expiration date. And because we have an expiration date, there are things we can do to either speed it up or get to it, and that's about as far as we go with it. But we don't control our reality to the point to where we don't need things. We need all the things that are around us in order for us to operate. So then the next question was, why does the Hebrew text say that he's patient and forgiving and that he cares about humanity when apparently he doesn't, since he doesn't have any emotions? Now my response to this question was the following. In the Mishnah it discussed that the Torah was written in the language of humanity, meaning that the Torah is for the Israeli Jewish people to deal with the reality Hashem created. The Torah could be written in a high-level metaphysical way where only a small amount of Jews would ever understand it, or it could be written in a way that humans, slash Jews, actually talk. This is one of the reasons that the oral Torah was given, i.e. to help with digging into the details. The Rambam, for example, equated the concept of emotions in the text to what we as humans experience from reality, from the reality Hashem created. For example, Hashem provides a planet, resources, and the ability to be protected, etc. And a response is that a human feels love. Hashem protected the Jewish people from our enemies, and we say that Hashem protects us. Hashem gives us the ability to escape our enemies and overpower them when they want to destroy the Jewish people, and we say that Hashem is giving us mercy. Hashem gives the Jewish people the ability to make mistakes and come back from those mistakes without abandoning us completely, and we can say that Hashem is being patient and forgiving. Thus, the terms of emotions are what we as humans experience, and it is what we perceive as change in the nature of Hashem. Yet there is a part of the Tanakh that states that Hashem doesn't change. So this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about time. Consider the following, and I'll get to this in another video. If Hashem is outside of time, meaning that time is one of Hashem's creations and Hashem is not bound inside of time itself like we are, then what that would mean, according to a number of sources, is that Hashem exists in the past, present, and future all at the same time. So, for example, if I say that when I was born, Hashem was there, I also have to say that Hashem, the same Hashem that was there when I was born, is already here right now, and was already here during the time I was born, and is already in the future right now. Now, again, like I said, this gets into a medical physical concept, and so the easiest way to say it is Hashem cares, Hashem loves, that He has provided for us. And the basic issue is, and this, like I said, I'll get to this in a future video, is that we can't equate humanity to Hashem because Hashem, is not a human. Hashem is way above and beyond humanity. So we can, the Torah allows, us to use the terms that the Torah says, and the written words of the Torah, to describe things without having to go so metaphysical with it. So we can say, that Hashem loves us. We can say that Hashem is patient, because in our own perspective, based upon what we see happening in reality, we see things that to us we can equate with words, but we can't really call them emotions the way humans have them, because again, and we'll get to this in just a second, you can't define something that's beyond humanity in a human way. So the last of this series of questions is the following. Also, why do Torah Moshe Jews and Orthodox Jews even care? And what are their motives and how do they feel about Hashem? Especially since they don't believe that Hashem loves them or has any feelings for them. The answer, and this is my response at the bottom. The answer to this is listed above, meaning my previous answer this, but I will state it like this. Because Hashem gave the Torah to our ancestors at Mount Sinai by bringing them out of Egypt and gave us the ability to be in the land of Israel, and because Hashem has, even in exile, kept the Jewish people in existence, we say that because of all of this, that we as humans perceive that as love. We also recognize that Hashem is beyond our perception. Yet, even that, with that being the case, we still we can feel these emotions, and using the language of humans, apply them to Hashem ourselves. So again, what this means is that, I can't go beyond humanity and say, okay, well, Hashem is angry on Sunday, He's happy on Monday, He's this on Tuesday, and so on. Because as we'll see in just a second, you would have to physically be, have a physical body for that. We know that, as far as the Torah Moshe is concerned, that Hashem doesn't have a body. Hashem doesn't have, something that we would equate to matter that within our reality. But we can see by the actions that Hashem has taken in creating reality and creating the possibilities of reality, and also giving, us as Jews and also, people who keep the Noahide laws, the ability to live through reality and survive it and overcome it, that we can equate to things of love because of the fact that this is what the text, allows us to do. But if you were to go into, take away your humanity and let's say take away your body and all things like that, you can't say that their emotions the way the humans are. A human has it because, again, it's based upon physicalities, and we'll see that in just a second. Okay, so the following comes from, the question of, okay, well, we can talk about emotions all we want, but what does the word even mean? When you say the word emotion or emotions, you have to define it, because otherwise we're just throwing terms out there, and we could easily think that we somehow even know what we're talking about when we might not. So I went to the University of West Alabama, where on their online site, and they had an article about the science of emotions, exploring the basics of emotional psychology. So the following is mentioned. How do we interpret and respond to the world around us makes up who we are and contributes to our quality of life. The study of emotional psychology allows researchers to dive into what makes humans react as they do to certain stimuli and have those reactions affect us both physically and mentally. While the study of emotional psychology is vast and complex, researchers have discovered quite a bit about what constitutes our emotions and our behavioral physical reactions to them. Now, again, it's important. They mention mental and physical. Okay? So, getting into defining emotions. Emotions are often confused with feelings and moods, but the three terms are not interchangeable. According to the American Psychological Association, emotion is defined as a complex reaction pattern involving experiential, behavioral, and psychological events. Emotions are how individuals deal with matters of situations they find personally significant. Emotional experiences have three components: a subjective experience, a psychological response, and a behavioral or expressive response. Again, dealing with mindsets and physicalities. Further, feelings arise from an emotional experience. Because a person is conscious of the experience, this is classified in the same category as hunger and pain. A feeling is the result of an emotion and may be influenced by memories, beliefs, and other factors. A mood is described by the APA as any short-lived emotional state, usually of low intensity. Moods differ from emotions because they lack stimuli and have no clear starting point. For example, insults can trigger the emotion of anger, while an angry mood may arise without apparent cause. Emotional psychologist Paul Ekman identified 6 basic emotions that could be interpreted through facial expressions. They included happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. He expanded the list in 1999 to also include embarrassment, excitement, contempt, shame, pride, satisfaction, and amusement, though those additions have not been widely adapted. So this brings us to the question. If we use that definition, and there's a number of other definitions that also, when dealing with emotions, deals with physicality, something that's physical or physiological. So let's ask a question. Let's take one of those emotions and ask the following question. Does the source of creation, meaning that, whatever created the entire universe, created all the possibilities that we exist in, does it have fear? And, this brings up the question, okay, well, what is fear? Well, usually people have an emotional response of fear when there's something that is beyond their control or power that, places them in a situation where they don't have control. So does the source of creation fear something? Does the thing that created the ability for there to be a creation, or to, is the big boss, if you will, of everything, does it fear something? The answer to that will, of course, have to be no, because there's nothing to cause it to fear it. For example, if it created everything and nothing created it, there's nothing to fear. It doesn't have like a stopwatch where it has to do things by a certain time. It doesn't have to do it based upon a program that something else put upon it to make it do what it wanted it to do. So again, right there, we've knocked off one emotion, and then the question will continue to be, well, what other emotions can we knock off? Does the source of creation get depressed, sad, lonely, suicidal? I mean, obviously, none of these things would even be applicable because of the fact that these are things that humans have based upon things that are not in our control. Now, the next question that came up was someone asked, and I've seen this in a video where Rabbi was discussing this. If Hashem has no emotions, does that make Hashem an emotionless robot? Meaning that somebody was like, okay, well, that just sounds like you're saying Hashem's like a robot that has no emotions. And I found this one kind of interesting because of the fact that, of course, the answer there would be no. And this one I want to get into why that would be the case. Because if you really think about it, you can't equate the source of creation, that mean that whatever created everything, as a robot for one simple reason. So that simple reason is the following. Here, who created robots and who created AI? Well, the simple answer to that is humans did. People did. People do. People created robots. People create robots, and we'll probably be creating robots till the end of time. But then that brings up another question. Who created humans? And the answer to that is Hashem. So if Hashem created humans and humans created robots and AI, you obviously can't create a robot or AI to Hashem because of the fact that the robots and AI only came up because of humans, and humans were created by Hashem. So what this would mean, if you really want to look at it, is that in a certain way, humans are created by Hashem. So we humans are the robots or the AI, and not the other way around. So that's why I say the question of, okay, well, if you're trying to say that Hashem doesn't have emotions, you're just saying he's a robot. Well, no, we're the robots. We're the AI. Hashem programmed us, if you will, and then let us go and use that program in the way that we choose by having free will. Either to choose this way or that way, based upon the possibilities, based upon the physical universe, based upon time. But Hashem is not bound by any of those things, but we are. So when a person says, well, you're saying Hashem doesn't have emotions, again, the issue is that you can't, even if you were to say Hashem had emotions, it obviously couldn't be human emotions. Because as we mentioned earlier, human emotions are based upon a lot of physiological events and mental events. And if Hashem doesn't have a body and Hashem isn't bound by time, then it's like what Rabbi Rav Saad Dagon and the Rambam mentioned, and other rabbis mentioned, that you can't equate Hashem to humanity or anything that Hashem created because Hashem is beyond all of it. Meaning that it's not like the universe exists and Hashem is just like 2 inches bigger than the universe. This is more like the universe is like, you can't even compare it. And that's why there are a number of rabbis who say, well, you can't even, it's not even a valid question, the use of the term emotions. Fine, we can say that based upon the way we feel, we say that Hashem has emotions, and it's perfectly acceptable to use that kind of terminology. But the reality is, if we want to get deeper into it, a person could ask the question, well, if Hashem loves us, then why did he allow this to happen? If Hashem, hates this, Why does he allow other things to happen over here? Well, that's where a person would have to realize, okay, well, love, hate, as we understand it, is a human experience. Hashem, as an example, isn't bound by time, as I said before, and as I repeat, because it's an important point to repeat. I mean, you could almost look at it like this. It'd be like saying, okay, someone could ask, well, where was Hashem when this particular war happened? Where was Hashem during the Holocaust? Was Hashem out playing golf somewhere, and then he came back to his creation and looked and said, hey, look what happened here. How did all this happen when I turned around for a minute? That's not the way that works. In the past, Hashem already knew what was going to be in the future. And in fact, I'll show this in a future video, that there's a number of sources that even say that Hashem, for example, before he created everything, already knew what was going to happen in the future and knew at the right time to place creation in its place. And again, it gets metaphysical, but the issue is that if you're having a conversation about it already, you would have to factor in the fact that if everything that we exist in was created, that Hashem is not bound by it. So this is Ehav Ever from the Chronicles of Ehav Ever. Thank you for listening. Take care, and part 2 and maybe part 3 will be coming up soon. Bye.